Hello and welcome to the Soul Sync podcast. I'm Jason Paul. Hello. It's great to have you here. I hope you're keeping well. Now, as I explained in the intro episode, 2 episodes ago, whatever it was, I said that I had a bank of really good recordings from before I went on my closet break. You could call it. So I've got some treasure trove ones, and this one was one of the ones that was getting me so excited to share with you because it's a special masterclass edition episode. I hear you ask, what is a masterclass episode? Well, let me tell you. A masterclass episode is where we delve into one particular aspect of someone's experience, and it's someone that I've brought into the show that I feel is really respected in that field, and this guest is no exception to that. Let me tell you. On this episode, we've got Linda Rauch. Now, Linda is such a great medium. She's such a great human, and she is so knowledgeable. If you could see the video on this episode, which I may release further down the line, you'd be able to see she's sitting behind this magnificent bookcase of so many books. So she's going to be talking to us on the subject, and the subject of this episode is healing as the foundation of all that we do. That's healing as the foundation of all that we do. Now, why is healing such a universal and essential foundation? It's essential in mediumship, personal growth, and everyday life. I've realised myself that the journey of a medium is all about healing. And my God, the journey of healing just continues with my mediumship because it's exposed things within me that, I hadn't even realised that were issues that were holding me back energetically. They were like bits of stagnant energy, and they were just stopping me from living my full potential, shining the brightest that I can possibly shine. So this is a subject that is relevant to anyone, because I think one thing we all need right now is bloody massive amounts of healing. So let me bring to you and let me welcome you to the first masterclass edition with Linda Rauch on the subject of healing as the foundation of all that we do. I'm Jason Paul. You're in the Soul Sync. Enjoy! So, Linda, I don't often say this to people, but welcome back to the Soul Sync.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. I'm so happy to be here. I really am.
So, I'm so happy to have you back. So today we are launching our very first masterclass episode. And what we're going to do today is we're going to delve into a particular subject. And the subject is healing as the foundation of all that we do. I've been so excited to talk to you all day. And I'm going to say to people from the get-go that I would so recommend, obviously listen to this episode because it's going to be a great one. But Linda's previous episode, there was so much really interesting stuff that we talked about. So if you go back, I think Linda was on a few, a couple of months ago, the episode was released. If you go back, you can listen to the full episode. So we're not going to go into so many of the twists and turns of Linda's actual story, but things that tie into today, to healing as the foundation of all that we do. So I will just say from the get-go with Masterclass, the whole concept behind it is a lot of the time when guests come on, we go into their story and there's learnings that can be had. But the thing with the Masterclass series is it's designed to be really clear so you can see on the tin what's going to be discussed and see what jumps out at you. So, Linda, I guess firstly, when I approached you about this masterclass episode, why you could have picked so many different subjects. And when you picked this subject, I was very glad because I thought that this is going to be a great conversation. But why did you firstly pick this topic?
Okay, so I'm glad that this is going to be the first masterclass you do because it is foundational. And I think we've got lost along the way, humankind, but also the world of mediums, psychics, tarot readers, diviners of every sort. We've got lost along the way. And people start kind of initially, they kind of get a sense, they get a knowing that this is the right thing for them, but they don't actually get clarity about why. And the why is that it's all about healing. And I've seen an awful lot of things over the years of people kind of dropping away, they give up their mediumship, or they become teachers and they don't do very well, or people get sick, or all sorts of different things, and the work doesn't get done. And also, people are not always walking around and doing their work with the realization that it is all about healing. It is absolutely foundational to everything that we do as healers. And when I say healers, I mean mediums, tarot readers, etc. We are healers. And you kind of, a spiritualist church, you get the medium that comes along, and then you get the healers that do the healing at the beginning. And it's all got a little bit formulaic and all a little bit separated. And we do hear wonderful things like you got to do mediumship from the heart, and you've got to bring in the emotions, you've got to allow people to feel it and such like. But what's happening is that we need to go back a step and have a look at who the people are that are coming into this world of mediumship, and what the motives we have, and, just kind of pick things apart a little bit so that we work out where people are going to go wrong along the way, and bring it back to healing every single time. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And I've realized how important it is to put healing at the helm of everything that we do.
I when I've been on courses, because in my own development as mediumship, I have come to the conclusion that it is about healing, but that I've reached that conclusion from having many, 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 many conversations. And I think, like you said there, it's not, it hasn't been told to me specifically like that, because otherwise I would have reached that conclusion a long time ago, and it's taken me a long time to work out. When I've been going along my journey, it's almost been technical skill. So for a long time, I thought that the secret to my development in my mediumship was, oh no, I just haven't learned the right technical skill.
Yeah.
Well, how have we got lost, and when did we start? When did this all sort of, because obviously the healing must have been the primary driver at some point. When did it stop?
So I think it's cultural. I think when spiritualism began, people had much more integrated, more authentic lives. I do think that there was stronger principles and values, so they could align with the values of the culture, which meant that they were more aligned to who they were authentically. Although, of course, at the same time, there was a huge amount of repression. But I think in the church, the authentic views were very much part of the church, and the people went along with that, understood that. Whereas now, people come into churches or they start mediumship and they're confused. It's like, do I want to do this for a living? Is it the most important thing to get a really good link? What does it mean if I give enough evidence? Is this all about building a network? A million different ideas about what they're supposed to be doing. And what they should be doing more than anything else is going back to themselves and looking at themselves and who they are and healing themselves first, because you cannot be a good medium if you're not healed to a certain degree. Now, of course, we can't all be 100%. We're human. We're here for that reason. We are not complete. But how many mediums have you seen that go finish a dem and go and get drunk? Or they're smoking cigarettes outside, one after the other, or they're, piling down the crisps nonstop, or they're having fights with their families at home, things like that, which we all, well, I don't do the smoking, might drink occasionally, but not much. But, we all have our problems, our issues. But if you're not looking at who you are as an individual, and I think that's why we're getting lots of the breakdowns in the organizations that we all, are part of in one way or another, whether it's, the government or the media or the individual organizations. We're getting those breakdowns because people do not have the community. They don't have the support. They don't have the families in place. They don't have, one set of principles to follow, and people are confused. People are frightened, and they're not working on themselves. So, healing is all about what happens in our own lives, which we are creating on the outside, which is a reflection of our own inner awareness. So the work you're doing on yourself will show in the life that you have. So if you have a dramatic life with lots of trauma, and it's, you're the one that ends up getting a parking ticket, and you're the one that ends up this happening, and people fight with you and this and that, yes, excuse my language, shit happens. But, if it's always happening, and it's nothing to do with your actual birth chart, then, why? Why do these things keep happening? And the chances are it's because you're not doing the work on yourself. And when you start to have that alignment with yourself and try and find authentically who you are, working on yourself over and over and over, and knowing that you're trying to do that for other people as well, and how you're trying to do that for other people, how you're trying to heal other people, then it's a smoother road. And then we're more in line with the original principles of spiritualism and Christianity and Judaism and all the religions, but we've got lost.
You know what makes me laugh every time I talk to you, Linda? You say so many things which are like little light bulbs, but my brain can't keep up with the cogs that are turning, because what you're saying is, and that says a lot for someone with ADHD. You put things in a very good and way that seems to resonate with me. When did you realize in your own journey that healing was the foundation of everything? Did you go into this realizing that, or this point of change, was it prior to your development, or what was your story behind it?
So I'm glad you asked me that, because it is important to look at this whole concept where you may have heard of highly sensitive people, HSPs, which was a phrase that was coined, I think, in the 80s. And basically, it's about all of us that are on this call, on this podcast, that are listening in, people who are sensitive. And when you're sensitive, like I was, like you were, like many of us, what happens is you kind of wake up to this world and you're like, oh, what the beep is this? And it's like you're the one person in the family where everybody else is like having a great time, and you're like in your room, like, writing in your journal desperately, or painting desperate pictures, or just sitting there thinking, I'm different. I'm seeing things and feeling things that other people don't see and feel. And so my journey to self-healing started quite early, because I was fascinated in psychology from, when I think it was seeing a Hitchcock film. Is it called Marnie? I'm not sure. But anyway, she's schizophrenic. She's got multiple personalities. And I was just fascinated with the mind and how the mind works. And so I then went into counselling, and I went into photography first. I talked about this in the last interview that we did. But it was always fascination with how people interact with each other and how people heal. And so I did 9 years of psychotherapy. Some of it was 3 times a week, which was absolutely amazing that I was in a situation I could do that. And then I learned, I just added more and more tools to my toolbox in healing, in order to heal others. But they were often a way for me to heal myself. It was always like, okay, that's another piece of the puzzle. And that's another piece of the puzzle. So when I got to the world of mediumship, I had already done a lot of work on myself. However, I did see a pattern very early on going to mediums, where I realized they were, very, very, and we're talking very, very generally here, but mediums tend to be really salt of the earth people and very kind on the whole, if you had to take a group compared to businessmen or whatever. Yeah. But there's a lot of unhappiness. There's support and camaraderie, but there's a lot of sadness about being isolated in their families, having to prove themselves, having to prove what they do and how true it is. And this whole thing that starts off in childhood, where you know something, the world is like this and other people don't, and then you spend your development in mediumship trying to prove to yourself that there is the other side of life, that you are capable of connecting with dead people. And it's, that's one of the motives that keeps going. So I was very aware of that. And I noticed very, very quickly that a lot of the people who are in positions of authority and working as teachers had not done enough work on themselves. And the ones that had stood out as exceptional. And you can't, it's a feeling of trust. If someone's really in touch with their authentic self, you automatically feel you can open up to them and trust more, because you feel safe. There's no masks that you're trying to work out. We're mediums, and psychics. It's like, we can tell there's masks, and we're like, are they really that person? Aren't they? Can I trust them to learn from them? Can't I? There's ego involved. And so, I was very aware of that, and I'd done a lot of work, and I still work on myself, hugely. I mean, I went through, I may have mentioned this in the last interview. I had a cancer diagnosis back in 2019. I had a year of therapy. I went back into therapy because having been a therapist and having known how valuable it is to sometimes go to someone that you don't know and just cry, or just look at your darkest shadow, your secrets, your deepest fears that you don't want to discuss with anyone that you know. It's a safe place to do that. And I knew to do that. So I went. But at the same time, I also spoke to my spiritual advisors. I spoke to mediums. I spoke to friends, etc. And I think every medium, if you're doing work with other people, you need an entire support team. You really do. You need not only do you need a good accountant, a good window cleaner, a good doctor, and that kind of thing, but you need, an osteopath. You need someone, best friend. You need a spiritual buddy that you can go on trips to. You need someone in your family that's going to support what you do, and then you need your teachers to just push you and to support you and to encourage you. And it's a big journey. You can't do it alone, even though we have spirit.
Do you know what? You're right, though, because even with myself, like, I look back at my life 2 years ago to the friends I have, to the friends I have now, and it's very different. I'm still assigning members of my team, Linda. I haven't got my team fully up and running yet, but I am recruiting, and I filled a couple of my positions. I know myself that I'm all too aware that I probably need to have therapy for some things that have happened in my life, because I haven't stopped to address them, really. I've just been running, and since my 20s, I was in a domestic abuse relationship. I had to stand trial, a 5-day Crown Court trial while I was in the dock, because my ex-partner had accused me of something that I hadn't done when I was a serving police officer. And then when I got found unanimously not guilty, I then got launched back into working the police again. And then I decided to leave, quit my job, and then went and got a trainee job, moved to a whole new city, in recruitment. And I just worked, built up a multi-million-pound company, but never stopped to address any of, really what happened to me. And I think I've become aware, probably myself, through my development with my mediumship, that I need to focus on my own healing, because I realised quite early on that the one thing I kept doing was kept looking back at myself, and it really made me keep looking at myself. And at times I thought to myself, I don't even know if I want to do this, the mediumship, because I thought, the point's been proven. I know the spirit world is real, but then it's just like I can't leave it alone. I don't know why I keep feeling pulled back to it. So I think and I think you made another really interesting point about teachers. When I now look, because when I first started, like so many of us do, I would just book a course without thinking about it. Now I've been around the block and I've ridden a couple of rodeos, Linda. I'm much more careful with the teachers as well, because I'm so sensitive, and I don't want to be in any situation where someone has an ego that's going to knock my confidence and put me backwards. So, I'm really careful what teachers, that I use as well. And yeah, I think you make so many interesting points there. When you teach mediumship, and because obviously you've got lots and lots and lots of students, having healing as the foundation, of all that we do, how do you integrate that with because it's such a personal thing, healing, isn't it? Like, what do we have to heal from? We've all got different lived experiences, different traumas, things that haunt us. How do you navigate that with your own students?
So the most important thing is to build a very strong link with divinity, with whatever name you want to put to the higher powers that we work with. When you have that really strong support, then a lot of the things that you get in therapy, you will get from your guides. So you will get the reflection. So you've heard in counseling, you as a counselor, depending on what style of counseling, but typically you sit there and you reflect back to the person. Oh, I hear you've had a really hard time and blah, 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 blah. And it sounds like life is really difficult for you, whatever else it is. And you reflect back. And then there's some guidance, although it's not really, as a counselor, you're not really there to give guidance, but there is some. So you get that aspect coming through with your connection with spirit. And you also get the sense of being heard when you connect with spirit, and you're just sitting in the power, which is obviously the most important thing to do. You're sitting in the power. You're there in a way naked. They can see who you are. They can see your emotions. They know all your foibles and everything about you, and they still love you. They still hold the space for you. They will still listen to you with whatever it is that you want to tell them, and they will reflect back to you how much love they have for you. And that is kind of what happens in a counseling situation. We don't call it love, but we hold the space with a lot of compassion, which actually is really, in a way, the same thing. So, and also, if you have that strong relationship with divinity and with spirit, then what happens is you have faith, and you're aware that you're not alone, that you can, you have strengths which are shown you. So tarot is called the magical mirror, and it's the most amazing divination tool because it shows you, it's like if the strength card, you're going through a difficult situation, the strength card comes up time and time again, then, the 3 readings in a row, you're like, oh, wow. And it's in the position of you, for example, you're like, oh, maybe I'm not so bad after all. Mm. So, it gives you that reflection, which is really, really powerful and really, really important. So that's really good. And then this feeling of releasing, because we're all trying to control everything, aren't we? All the time we're trying to control, and we are powerless. I mean, we have will, we can go in one direction or the other, but overall, the spirit has, the main plan in mind. And yes, as I said, we can mess it up or we can take it in a different direction. But once we recognize that they're with us, guiding us, we don't try and control everything as much. So those are just a few ways that I try and encourage the students to put aside their human masks and just connect deeply with spirit. And more you do that, the more you are healed. And then, of course, integrating it into the teaching in what we do and how we work with other people in the same kind of ways. And that's kind of like the next step. But I don't, when I'm teaching, if I'm teaching, psychic work or mediumship or tarot, I'm not focusing on this, but that is the goal. So when I do meditations, I want them to feel spirit. I want them to feel, I want them to feel that they are connected to each other, that we're all connected. All those very, beautiful understandings that consciousness studies have brought us. I want them to feel that opening, that expansion, that awakening, so that they can heal. And then they get it for themselves without me even saying anything, really.
That's beautiful. When you were talking through that, I know myself, I need to start bloody sitting in the power more often because I'm not doing it enough. But my thing is and recently I have been trying something new. So recently I've been getting out in nature more often because I'm not the sort of person who sits still a lot. But I've noticed I've got a new little trick, Linda, where I put a blackout eye mask on, and when that's on, that is my sitting in the power time. Because I've noticed that when I'm just sitting there normally, if I open my eyes because something's distracted me, when the eye mask is on, I'm sitting in the power. But I need to,
good.
Well, thank you. One of the things
those kind of tips make a huge difference to people's practice.
It's taken me a while to figure, because what would happen, so for instance, I'd be sitting in the power and then there'd be like a street light or something or a car light that would distract me. And now I can't be distracted because it literally, it's the best eye mask ever, honestly. It's £7 off Amazon, of course. But one thing I've been trying to do is, I'm not feeling spirit all the time, but I have recently realised what my problem is. But mine is a lack of belief in myself and a lack of belief in my ability to do it. So and it's funny because in no other circumstance in life do I lack self-confidence and belief in myself. But when it comes to mediumship, because it's the unseen and the untangible, like I'll give you an example. And I know I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here. So I was sat in a circle the other night, and I've just started with this medium who's really nice. She's been around for a very long time, and she's local to me. And we started in the circle, and already, as soon as we're going round, like there's about 3 people before me. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, like, come on, you need to start connecting. Don't connect too soon because you're going to get distracted. And that's just not the right formula. Already I'm starting to get in my own mind with it. But then I'm finding with myself, okay, how do I get that belief? How do I turn the pendulum the other way? Because what I'm trying to deal with here is, how do I overcome that? It's, it's difficult. I'm almost looking to you for the answer, but I know you can't give me the answer because it's an eternal thing.
I have got the answer.
Linda, help me. Help me, Linda.
So I'll do my best. Okay, so the best mediums are the ones that have the simplest minds, that don't overcomplicate, that aren't busy, that are just matter of fact, one step after the other. They're just those kind of easy people that don't have a busy mind, right? So you have a busy mind, I have a busy mind, and we sit there and we think that we're the boss. We think that we're the ones that matter. It's not us. We are doing this. We are just servants of spirit, and they're our boss. So if they want you to do well, they need to help you. They will find things like teachers, or put a book in your path, or something, some tip, show you that eye mask, whatever it is. They will help you do that. And we're sitting there thinking it's all about us and we're the ones that we have to do all this by ourselves. But actually, that's not the case at all. So just, the 12-step program, and I worked in addiction medicine, as I probably mentioned last time, has it all. It was channeled, it was genius. And a lot of the healing systems that people are writing about now are just versions of the 12-step program. And
go back a minute, right? Because you just said something interesting there.
Yes.
So obviously, I know what the 12-step program is. It's obviously associated with, Alcoholics Anonymous. What was you saying? It came from where?
It was channeled. It was genius. Oh. It's a spiritual. The whole thing was a spiritual download. There's no way it couldn't have been. If you read through the 12 steps, I mean, it's so beautiful. And this whole idea, which is one of the steps, is give it up to God. Just give it up to God. So if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not going to get it right, blah, 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 and all of that, just say, you take the helm, you take control here. This is not little old human me, because I'm only a little old human, and you're unbelievably powerful, immense, beautiful light beings. How can I think for a minute I'm going to do a better job than you? You take the helm. You heal me. And then I wrote them down here because I think they're just so important. So I will talk. I wasn't expecting.
I don't know what the 12 steps are. You're almost making me want to buy the 12-step book. And do you know what? I probably do have a few addictions that could be rectified with that book. I'm far too glued to certain devices. So
it's not just about addiction. It's the human condition. It's purely for the human condition. So I'm not going to read all of them, but you basically, the first one is you admit you're powerless. So you're sitting there in your circle and you think that if it's up to you to make that connection with spirit and to get that strong link.
Yes.
So if the alarm bell goes on, or you've got a tummy ache that day, or something else goes, you're powerless. It's like they have to help you make that link. You're not doing it by yourself. You're putting your mask aside, your human busy mind, so that you are in the best possible condition to do that. Yes. But ultimately, it's about them if they want to come through. Right. And then there's there's about believing that a power greater than ourselves could restore you to sanity. So that's like saying, okay, well, I'm sitting there and I'm really frightened and I don't know what I'm doing because I'm going to look like an idiot and blah, blah, blah. It's just say, okay, spirit, I know you can help me with this. Go ahead. That's step number 2. And then step number 3 is basically give it up to God. It's like, it's not for me, the most miraculous things have occurred that, at times that you never think they're going to happen. I was doing a reading the other day with a beautiful woman, and I could feel there were big defenses up, and I couldn't quite get through to what was going on. But her father came through, and I heard him say, "I'm with your son." And I said the words, "I'm with your son." He's saying, "I'm with your son." In other words, in my mind, because human got in the way, the son, because I kind of gauged, I knew how old she was roughly, and I kind of imagined her son, and roughly my mind was doing stuff, was a certain age, and the grandfather would probably sit at the bottom of the bed or just hang out with the kid, when he was doing his stuff. And that's how I was perceiving it as a human. How she heard it was exactly how I said it, which was, "I'm with your son." And she was just, that broke the energy of her defensiveness because her son had just died a few, I think it was 2 months before. And the grandfather was literally with the son. And I would never have thought that because she was young, and it just, my mind was just busy doing something else. So, the spirit gave me those words that he said, the grandfather said those specific words. It wasn't up to me, despite me interrupting with that whole story, which I was doing, gave me exactly the key to turn the energy, to give her what she needed so that she could then open up. And it was miraculous. I didn't do that. Absolutely. So when you turn over, when you give it up to God, they take over. And then this whole idea about, which is step 3, about turning your will and your lives over. That's part of the same thing, because it's not just giving it up to God as in, you take over and help me, but it's like trying to make a decision. Like, I have to be a really good medium, and I've got to be the top of the class, or, those things that I've got to prove myself because I'm doing podcasts now. So I've got to know what I'm talking about, or whatever it is.
Yeah. We all fall victim of that, the imposter syndrome.
We do. So, letting that go. So, and there's more in the 12 steps. The thing I'm not completely on board with is about this very strong need to make amends, which comes through the 12-step program, which becomes a very big feature of it. I think it's important, but it's not a necessary part of the healing. We can make our own amends personally, within ourselves, and live a good life. But I think it's, anyway, that's another story. But addiction medicine tend to focus on that when there's so many other beautiful steps that need to focus on. And the last step, which is incredible, is having had a spiritual awakening. And as the results of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics, which, you can put, chocolate addicts or shopping addicts or bitchy addicts, whatever, and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So basically they're saying, do service, which is a wonderful antidote to times when we're struggling, is to do service for others. So there's so many ways in which you can just let go of all that. I've got to make a link. Even if you're on stage, even if you've got 30 or 100 people in front of you, it's not going to be about you. It's going to be about the relationship between spirit and who you are communicating to. You don't matter. You need to get out the way. So, yeah.
Linda.
Yes.
That really helped me, actually. Thank you. I'm going to get the 12 steps, because I'm going to read into that, because I'm aware of it, but I've never looked at it or even considered it in the way that you've just said. That's really, really interesting. I think you make some absolutely fascinating points there. And I think you're right. I understand where I'm going wrong. I'm just, do you know what? It's because I wanted to do it really badly. I'm just trying too hard.
Why though?
Because I want
You
to
know,
help people.
okay, so why do you want to help people? And that's what a lot of sensitives, and you went into the police force. And what I was talking about before about people in organizations and so many of the teachers applies there as well. It's like people go into the police for genuine reasons that they want to help, and often because they understand what suffering feels like. And if you're sensitive, you understand what suffering feels like, and you want to stop suffering for others. You want to stop it. You want to take care of crime, or you want to, take care of people's
You've
mental
just hit the nail on the head, actually. I'll tell you why. You've just made me self-reflect. I want to do it because I went through, a lot of people might look at me now and go, oh, yeah, and, a big national company and whatever. Oh, my God, my life has been, so traumatic at times. But I want to sort of help people who, are facing a lot of challenges. I grew up in, well, it's a not horrible part of London now. Everywhere in London's expensive, but I grew up in, just a really rundown part of London, didn't have a lot of money and had to really work hard to get to where I am. Because even the school I went to was it was bulldozed down the year after I left. And trust me, Linda, no one was chaining themselves to the gate to try and stop it being bulldozed down. So I want to help people because I feel that I'm a very resilient person, and to get to where I am, I feel that there's a real underlying message there where I can help people with that. I guess that's why. Yeah,
which is an absolutely beautiful way to, something you want to share with the world and use as your motivation. And that takes me to being authentic with who you are. And if that is an authentic driver to be able to share and pay forward, really, or pay back in a way, all the gifts and all the opportunities that you've been given and all the ways that you were helped. And probably, of course, a lot of it you did yourself, but, you survived because there was help along the way, whether it was your unconscious contact with spirit or whatever it was. You survived because of that. And so wanting to pay that forward and take that to other people is very good. And because you know what it feels like to go through all of that. So when you know that, it then becomes, okay, well, maybe spirit doesn't want you to do that. Maybe they don't. And I'm not saying they don't at all, because they probably do. But that's a big question that we have to kind of leave up to them to decide. So, okay, if you want me to do this, help me do this. And that's another one of the 12 steps, actually. What is it? There's one about, I can't remember what it's called, but basically it says ask. It says, actually, it uses the word ask. So asks doesn't say ask spirit, but it uses the word ask. So ask, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. So, if it's like, I want to do this, I really want to help people, but if it's a shortcoming, if it's just me and my ego wanting to do it because I've decided that's who I am or whatever, then, come and remove that, or remove the obstacles that are stopping me from doing that. It's asking for help, which is really important to be your authentic self. But it does sound like it's a very authentic that's the wrong word, authentic mission of yours, which is absolutely beautiful.
I think it is authentic because if it was the way I see it, it's not driven by money, because actually it's costing me a hell of a lot of money to keep pursuing this.
Yeah.
All the amount of time I'm spending here dedicating myself to it's certainly only driven by one thing, which is, good. And I don't get me wrong, Linda, I have got a little bit of a desire that I'd quite like to get on a platform and have a go at doing it, because I've always been a bit of a natural entertainer. But, I understand this isn't entertainment, but I do think that I belong on a platform probably doing it.
But entertainment is not a bad thing. Entertainment, I mean, Tony Stockwell, of course, who's, one of my favorite mediums. He's an absolutely brilliant entertainer. He's the funniest guy. It's the bridge that opens you up to trusting him, and it helps you understand the message. It kind of, if there's an intense, really difficult moment that people are finding it difficult to get over, he might say something funny that lifts you through it, or do something. So, that's a skill that spirit will want to use in you to do what you need to do. If
Oh,
mediumship,
trust me, Linda, I've got a good sense of humour at the best of times, especially in moments of catastrophe. Um, I wasn't expecting you at all today to bring up the 12 steps. That
I
you've
wasn't
never.
either.
Oh, you never failed to surprise me.
No, it came up this afternoon. I was just thinking, okay, well, I'll do a bit of preparation here. And then I think it was Give It Up to God came into my mind. And I thought, okay, hey, you know what? I need to have a look at the 12-step programs because I know that came from there. And I remember a lot of the steps being used in the work that I was doing. And I thought, I want to have a look at that. And as I was going through it, I was really blown away. And then I came across another guy, which I've known about for a while, called Donald Epstein, who's done a lot of stuff on healing. And I looked at one of his systems. And as I said, there are other systems out there. And I thought, a lot of this just comes from the 12 steps. It's taking it one step further. But, we got to give it. But it came from that same. I don't know exactly when that was created, the 12-step program, but it came from that same genuine, authentic love of humankind and understanding of what it's like to live a spiritual life and being open to healing. And yeah, I think it's
from everything you've said, I find it crazy that it's only being used and applied to addiction groups. It sounds like it's a book everybody should read, for their own personal benefit, because we've all got traumas we're trying to heal. I wonder why it's only been used in that regard.
I'm sure that there are kind of updated, more spiritual, like the Donald Epstein one, where things that are probably more often used. I mean, we hear many of these things, don't we, about, and we think it's new, like manifestation, like those ideas and of many others. And you think, oh, well, that's new. Actually, it isn't. It comes from something much, much older that's been around for much longer. It's just repackaged and marketed in a more now way. So, that's why people kind of go for it. But
fascinating. Well, I will look into the 12 steps. I'll be reading it in a few weeks' time, probably. My desk, my mum will start wondering what the hell's going on. Why are you reading the 12 steps? For spiritual development, mother, obviously. So, sort of moving on then, yes. On this topic, I think we've covered a hell of a lot, actually. So I think it's important to say as well, because a lot of people are, and I think you brought this up earlier, are going to realise that there's healing to do. But I think you touched on that, it's not a destination, it's a journey. And what I've realised is things that I feel that I'd healed from do keep coming back up again. You mentioned obviously yourself, with what happened to you with your cancer diagnosis, seeking therapy. I guess as well, I was wanting to ask you this earlier, but how do you decide on a therapist as well and stuff like that?
Well, you use your intuition, you ask spirit to bring the right person along.
Of course you do, Linda. I knew you was going to say that.
You must be psychic, right? You just feel it. And the right help comes along. Did I tell you in the last episode about when I went to the hospital and the tattoos of the nurse? Does that sound familiar?
No, I would definitely remember that, right. I believe.
So I was very upset that it's during COVID and I had to be dropped off by myself outside the hospital, and I was really, really scared. And so the primary thing was me feeling like I was alone. And also I had popped a rib a week or so before, so I was in agony, and we were driving then. It was quite a big, long drive, and we were going in our old 20-year-old car, going over every bump, and it was like, ow, ow. And I said to my husband, what car's got the best suspension? Because I don't care what happens after this. If I survive this cancer, we're getting it. And he said, well, Audis are probably really good. So we were looking at all the Audis as we were driving along to distract me, and it kept me busy. And well, I like that color and I like that color. And it was like something I could focus on. Got there, was sitting on my own, really, really terrified, because I hadn't had surgery before. Well, I had many, many, many years before, but I was really scared of what was the diagnosis and blah, 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 blah. And this nurse came in and he said, I'm just here to put a thingy, the drip
cannula.
Yeah, in. And I said, okay, fine. And he had a tattoo and it looked like the Audi symbol. And I said to him, what's that? I said, I hope you don't mind me asking, but your tattoo so unusual. And he said, yeah, it was supposed to represent eternity, but they did the Audi symbol by accident. I couldn't believe it. And then I said, and that other one, what's that tattoo? And it was a triangle going one direction sideways, then one going up and one going down. And he said, God is with you in the ups and the downs. I couldn't believe it. And then I knew I was going to be fine. I thought, right, I'm in the right place, the right surgeon. Everything is going to be fine because God is with me in the ups and the downs. And that proof, I mean, it doesn't get clearer than that. I still don't have an album.
Oh, I bet that stopped you in your tracks.
It was just amazing. It made me so happy. It was just made me just release into it and let go of the kind of trying to control. I gave it, the whole give it up to God and let it go. It wasn't my will. If I was going to die, I was going to die. Whatever, just let it all go.
I love this give it up to God. I love this. This is the one thing that I've really taken from talking to you. So I've got it in big bold letters on my notepad here. I've definitely taken that. Do you know what? I want to ask you another question, which isn't so much related to healing, but it is a question that a lot of people keep sending emails about. And while you're here, I'm going to ask it because I know there's people out there that want to know. Connecting with guides. I'm interested in it as well because of course, I've connected with my guides in one form or another, but I don't know of it. I'm not conscious of it. And I don't know who my guides are yet, but that's probably got something big to do with the fact that I'm not sitting in the power now. But to ask the question, lots of people get in touch and ask, how do they establish a connection with their guides and so on?
Okay, so for many, 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 many years, I didn't have any connection with specific guides. I just knew that I was being guided. I knew I sensed that there was that there were beings around me, that I was protected, that I was loved. Because of course, being loved is the most important thing. And it's only really in the last 3-4 years that I have.
Oh, that's really recent.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting you to say that.
Yeah, I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, I've got so-and-so's been my guide since I was 3. And, he's a Native American that comes from such and such a place and blah, 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 whatever. I've never been one of those. And, I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily a reason why I haven't been one of those or whatever. It's just different people have different experiences and they're all as valid. But for me, it just didn't seem right. And I remember going to a trance workshop many years ago and we were doing something with guides and the guys, and I got, and again, stop me if it's a story you've heard in the last time, but he was kind of getting around and each person had to come to a place where they were ready to vocalize who they were with, who their guides were, such like. And I was at the end of that list and I was ready to burst because I was sitting there like, they're here, and they're here, and they're here, and they're here. And I was like, oh no, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to burst. And the guy said, Linda, you've obviously been to a lot of workshops because you've got a lot of guides with you that you've picked up at one time or another. And there are hundreds of them. And it was true. And because I think that is what happens is that sometimes we go to a workshop and we do a guided meditation on connecting with your guides, and we connect with someone that kind of happens to be in the ether or whatever that wants, or maybe it's the person who built this house or who, whatever, or I don't know. It could be someone who's written one of these books. It just happens to hang out and is there and comes into your auric field in some way or another. So I don't know. I think it's all a mystery. I don't think that there's actual facts or figures about any of it. If you don't know your guides, it doesn't matter. The only thing I should say is that having got to know a couple of my guides, and one is an off-world alien guide, which I may have talked about before.
No.
No. Okay. So then I will. And the other one is a very, I'm Jewish. So he's a very, very old Jewish not a rabbi or anything special, just a guy. And I saw him very, very clearly. He gave me his name. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to try and remember that so I can keep working with that. The other one was I was in a crop circle that was on my birthday, and we only had a few minutes because the farmer had decided he didn't want anyone on the land, and he was coming with the tractors. And we'd been told you've got like minutes to go in there. So I was sitting in this crop circle. I'm just going to sit in the power for a minute. I got to tune in. Like, okay, I'm tuning in. You know, that whole feeling. And I felt this being next to me, and I felt it was a she, and all I could sense and feel was the face, which was very large next to me, and I could feel it next to my face, and it was rubbery and it was grey. And I thought, and I could vaguely see an eye up here, but that's all. But she showed me in my mind, she didn't physically show me with a hand or anything, but she showed me an elongated heart. And I thought, well, obviously, you know, she's here with love. And so whoever it is fine. And I got up, ran away, you know, because we had to rush off. And I was in the car thinking, what just happened? That's mind blowing. Anyway, I was thinking, why did she show me that elongated heart? It was a whole, you know, it's like you have to see it's elongated. That was very important. And I got home, and my son and his girlfriend had made me a birthday cake. And on top of the birthday cake was an elongated heart, which was...
Oh, that's funny, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, she gave me her name. So I work with those two. And what's really interesting, I don't necessarily think, I mean, my guide that is kind of the guide that I have known about in a sense is my grandmother, because I've kept a conversation going with my grandmother since she died. We were very, very close, and she's my guardian angel. And I feel like she's present, and I say my guardian angel prayer every single night. So I've kind of really built a relationship with her in that sense, that kind of guide. But the other two, what I found since I've worked with them is that it's like, you know, if you know the address of spirit, this is why if you sit in the power a lot, it's a really good thing, because if you go into that space a lot, you know what it's like, you're in there, you know how it feels like, you know where things are, you know who's likely to be there and everything, you're much more comfortable, and it's easy to get there. But if you say, okay, you know, there's your next door neighbor, go into their toilet in the upstairs, you know, it's like you don't know where it is, you don't know what it's like, you know, it's like it's unknown territory. That's why you have to sit in the power, so you really get to know it. The more you get to know your guides, if you want to work with specific guides, and I don't think it matters which ones, it's just whichever ones come to you at the time, you can build relationships with them, then you know who's going to be there for you. And so when you're asking spirit to help you with something, you've got a face to put it to, or a name to put it to. And I think the whole thing about an intention and awareness, which is so much a part of mediumship, you're setting the intent, like dialing up the radio channel. You're setting the intent. This is what I want. Can you help me get this? And it just clarifies the intention a little bit clearer.
So when you're sitting down to do this is, I want to connect with a guide.
This is if you are working, you're doing something like I'm having a fight with a best friend. I need a guide to come and help resolve it. If you want to find your guides, that's not difficult. You know, we had a lovely student in my advanced group said that she set the intention for 3 nights. She prayed before she went to sleep, or set the intention. Intentional prayer is a spell or a prayer or an setting intention, same word. Or same concept. Please let me know who my guide is. And after the 3rd night, she heard the name very clearly in her mind. So that really worked for her. But you can go into a meditative state. There are many, many meditations out there. Getting to know your tarot guides. Or that's applies to tarot as well, because you work with specific tarot guides. But getting to know your guides and your spirit guides or your animal guides. And get into that meditative state. You can follow one of those journeys that you can find on YouTube or whatever, or you can just sit in the power and say, I would like to get to know, I'd like to see my spirit guide. And
I've recently started sitting in silence because I find that the music I actually find distracting now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like music ones, but there are some that there's just some good voices that can talk you into it, because you need somebody to talk you into a slight trance if you're not able to go that journey yourself by yourself. But if you put your eye mask on, you're setting the intention. It's brilliant. I love that. I'm now setting the intention that I'm sitting in the power. So you've got the eye mask on, and that already will take you to a slightly relaxed state, because you've already programmed that in to your awareness if that's what happens. Then you do your breathing, which is the best way to get into it. You allow yourself to feel slightly expanded, and you start to really feel everything in the room. It's mindfulness, really. You just become mindful of everything that's there. And by doing that, it takes you into the present moment. You expand, you feel your soul enter as your human moves aside. And then get into as deep a trance as you can get, and with the intention that you've set at the beginning. So you don't even have to hold on to that intention anymore. You've set it at the beginning. I'm doing this in order to meet my spirit guides. And then you just sit. And if someone comes forward, they do. If they don't, maybe next time they will, or the time after, or they'll come to you in a dream.
Linda, I've absolutely loved everything you've said. I've made so many notes. I think I've learned as much in the masterclass as anyone else has. Do you know what? I think we've had such a great conversation today. I think we covered so much. I'm so grateful for you coming back on. I'm going to ask you for a final thought, or something that we can close this masterclass episode on, and it could be as long or as short as you like.
Okay, well, as I was leaving it up to Spirit to guide me with this today, and letting the right information come through, I came across a quote, which was basically a reminder that Jesus said, and I'm Jewish, but Jesus, has said some wonderful things. The kingdom of heaven is within you. And also within Hindu spiritual beliefs, they talk about bliss being part of your essential nature. And so who you truly are is healed, is perfect, is bliss. The rest are the masks that we wear. Now, it could be physical. There might be some brain chemistry issues, or you're in pain, so it's difficult. It could be that you've eaten way too much sugar, drunk too much coffee, and it's in the way. It could be that you aren't looking after yourself properly, and you can go to a counselor as long as you like, but if you haven't got enough B vitamins on board, then it's not going to help with the mental health issues. So there's those kind of things that get in the way. There's also trauma, PTSD, and the social construct. So things like having people tell you what you should be, and what you should make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I asked this little kid the other day, have you thought about what you want to do when you're older? Yeah, he was about 11. I want to make a lot of money. And I could see what kind of kid he was. He was the sweetest, most creative little boy. And I said to him, "You're very creative, aren't you?" And he was like, "Yeah, but that didn't matter. And he was never going to make money. He's not that kind of kid. He won't be able to. But those are the social construct. So we are dealing with a lot of things that we have to push aside. So we just keep needing to go back into sitting in the power and connection with spirit, because we need their love, their unconditional love, to say, you know what, you didn't get it right first time around. You're not the best medium in the world. You never will be, but it doesn't matter, because you're still going to heal the most amazing amount of people and help them. Yes, we notice that some things happen to you and it's hard for you to let go, but we still love you, and we recognize your wholeness. And that in itself is the gift that you get from spirit. And then that's the gift, as in the 12-step program, that you then pass on to others, because that's what loved ones come through from the other side with, that love. And as a medium, if you can bring through that love, that person who's sitting there hating themselves because their wife's just left them and they've been fired from their job because they were late for the 5th time, is suddenly loved by the father that, he thought was gone. So, just focus on the healing for you, focus on the healing for your clients and who you work with. And just know that, essentially we are all complete, and we are all whole, we are all perfect, and we are all amazing. We have each one of us has superpowers and strengths. Each one of us.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Linda, it's been a delight. And if you do want to find out more about Linda, you can go to the show notes where her website is, and all of the information about her courses and everything is there. Linda, thank you.
A pleasure. So much fun talking to you. I just want to put you in a little box and have you on my desk and I can pull you out. You could be
Linda, I just want to have you here every evening to tell me more pearls of wisdom.
Well, we have to do a swap, like a deal. Next lifetime, I'll be your spirit guide. The one after you could be my spirit guide.
I'd like that, Linda. I'd like you as a spirit guide, to be fair. But thank
Happy
you.
to do that. So lovely. Thank you.